Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Zoobox Goes to the Movies. I'm your host, Shaun, and with me returning is Big Paul. What's up, Big Paul?
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, yes, tonight we're going to be enjoying some libations and talking about 1984's Amadeus.
Are we going to appall you with something confidential and disgusting? Let's hope so, because that is what you really like. Unconfessed crimes of buried wickedness. If that is what brings you to us, the prospect of hearing horrors, you shall not go unrewarded.
I don't believe it. The whole city is talking.
You hear it all over.
What a story.
What a scandal.
What a comedy.
What a tragedy.
Incredible.
I don't believe it.
Who can believe it?
What horrors have you heard?
Tell us.
Tell us.
Tell us at once.
Tell us about Wolfgang.
Amadeus.
Mozart.
Mozart?
And the film, directed by Milos Forman, written by Milos Forman, Zdeněk Mahler, and Peter Schaefer, based on a play that he also wrote of the same name. It stars F. Murray Abraham, Tom Hulce, Roy Dotrice, Elizabeth Beeridge, Simon Callow, Christine Ebersol, Charles Kay, Kenny Baker, Jeffrey Jones, and others. The logline plot synopsis is: the life, success, and troubles of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart is told by Antonio Salieri, the contemporaneous composer who was insanely jealous of Mozart's talents and claimed to have murdered him.
Salieri.
I don't believe it.
All the same,
Could it be possible?
did Salieri do it after all?
Did he murder Amadeus?
Amadeus, the man, the music, the magic, the madness, the murder, the mystery, the motion picture. Amadeus. Everything you've heard is true.
Okay, so this kind of came out of left field. Paul, he's like, you ever see Amadeus? He sends me a message about Amadeus, and it was just funny. I don't think you knew this, but like in my late teens and early 20s, I was really into Amadeus. It was like right before I moved to Alaska. Like that 2 years, I watched it like 30 times. And then never watched it again. Like in all these years in between.
Yeah. I don't think I asked you. I asked you if you remembered it.
No, I know. I was being a little facetious. Yeah. Had you ever seen Amadeus? Because I don't think we've never. I don't know if we've ever talked about Amadeus, even just casually.
I'm sure we have in one of those drunken stupor in Alaska, right? Because there's a lot of like things where I like want to like chat about this like flick with you too. But yeah, no, I definitely saw it. Like my mom, huge Mozart fan. I don't know, like. And I've all been like, oh, Beethoven, but like definitely Mozart. I remember watching this when it got it from Blockbuster when I was a young teen, whatever. And then I remember watching, just being like, just even at the time, I didn't even really know like everything I was watching. Again, to just remember watching it a lot. It made a huge impression on me, especially Tom Hulce, who played Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and just like enjoying it and just being like, wow, because she watched a lot of, they did all that like PBS crap, a lot of period pieces and stuff. But this one I remember just like sticking out, like it caught my attention as a young teenage boy, and I was just like, damn, that was cool. And then just kind of off the radar. And then recently I was, just scrolling through YouTube one night, having some nightcaps, and then we got the scene where Mozart just gets introduced to King Jones II, and then I was just like, oh damn, that's a great scene. And then that's when I texted you. I was like, yeah, man, let's watch it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. No, I'm really happy you did, because it's something that wouldn't have naturally occurred to me to like do, but it is one of my. Well, when you had sent me that message, I was like, oh, that's like one of my all-time favorite movies. Like that's probably in the top 50 at least. like of movies I've ever seen.
I didn't know because I watched it several times since I shot you that note. Like coming back that one, it skyrocketed into my top 10. Just watching it, and then it's just so watchable, and it's just so
It's a quick.
well
It's like
done.
it's a super quick 3 hours. Like it's a 3 hour long movie. It does not feel like it's 3 hours, and that is a testament to the pace and the way that it is edited, and the way that they mix the music, and it's like it's a perfectly pitched like cinematic experience. It's not a musical, but it kind of is a musical, and it has like this really it's interesting because people can go back. Paul and I talked about Barry Lyndon, which is also a movie that's kind of takes place around this time period, right? Or somewhere in here, and that Milos Forman has like such a different approach to that time period because he did a lot of the same things Kubrick did, which was all natural lighting, like with candles and stuff like that. But he actually made me feel like I was there, whereas Kubrick makes you look like you're looking at like a painting, right? Like it's much more like mannered, and it's more of like a technical feat. It's like really gorgeous to look at. But this, you really get wrapped up in the atmosphere and the types of people that you feel like you're actually around, like real human beings, and not in the way that Kubrick sometimes treats his actors like pieces, like action figures for him to like move around.
I think the term we used a lot when we did all the Kubrick stuff was like, dissonance.
Yeah.
He really makes you, like, as an audience member, he's like challenging you with something, and it's always very cold, right?
Yeah.
This one, same thing, very beautiful, open scenes, but like, you are in it, and it's very lively. Not saying that, Barry Lyndon is not. Well, I guess
no. Barry Lyndon's like it's an intellectual experience, whereas this is like emotional. It's completely driven on like the emotions and the of the time and the music, and then the kind of the creation of cinema. Like it really is really more in your face. It's more of a populist movie, right? It's like it's more on its face, just entertaining. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. From just like the performances to the way the music, like I said, is incorporated. The big opera scenes and stuff are amazing. I mean, from top to bottom, it's like just a joy to watch. Like every single aspect of the movie is impressive in some respect, and it gets by being really stylized as well too. It's like it's not like a normal movie. It doesn't because it's an adapted play, and in some ways you can feel that. You can feel the play at some points in the script and in the performances too. The performances are actually very like stagey,
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Well, there's definitely I know you mean like just like solely like on the surface like value. I mean, there's some things that really stick your teeth into here.
For sure.
That way, so.
Yeah, no, 100. I think it's just more obvious in something like this. Like Salieri basically tells you like what is the subtext of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Does God choose winners and losers? Actually, I have one of my notes was Amadeus, aka the frustrations of the world's second most talented composer. Because you could be so fucking good, but you'll never be Mozart, And that's like, and when you have that like crushing realization, you thought you were good, you dedicated everything in your life, you literally made a pact with God that you'd be a virgin forever, like.
While my father prayed earnestly to God to protect commerce, I would offer up, secretly, the proudest prayer a boy could think of. Lord, make me a great composer. Let me celebrate your glory through music, and be celebrated myself. Make me famous through the world, dear God. Make me immortal. After I die, let people speak my name forever with love for what I wrote. In return, I will give you my chastity, my industry, my deepest humility, every hour of my life.
Which is none of that's true, but in the movie, that's what happens. Like, and so like that's like a really interesting kind of thing to think about in terms of like just that human experience and what that must feel like to be that guy who is this close to being Mozart, but he's not Mozart. and how fucking frustrating that would be. I can just imagine. I'm totally on Salieri's side the whole movie. You know.
Well, I think that's the thing, right? Very few people get to be or experience or effortlessly talented in something as like Mozart, as he is portrayed in this, is with music, right?
Yeah.
But virtually everybody has an element of Salieri, right? Almost everybody can like appreciate like one thing or can relate to something like throughout the course of his life as the story's being told, right? Yeah. And that's just what makes it so good, because it could be about like you hit the nail on the head too, you know, this human condition type of story, right? It could have been about anything, but you could find, you know, polar opposites on this, you know, parallel path, and then it moved as good as long as, you know, Forman, you know, did the way that he did. But the fact that, you know, it was opera, it was music, and it just like
and it makes it feel like an opera. Like you feel like you're watching an opera when you're watching the movie, right? Like, because it's so big and like baroque, and the performances are not naturalistic. Like there's a little extra something there. There's a little extra like stage, like I said, like kind of stagecraft like style, especially with Tom Hulce as Mozart. Like that is a performance that actually I have to get acclimated to. Whenever he first comes on, I've seen this movie a ton of times, but every time I watched it like 2.5 times this week, and every time the first scene I start cringing when he starts talking. But then I acclimate to it, and I'm like, it just takes me. I don't know why. It just takes me a second.
What is it about it that's making you cringe?
There is the line delivery is like feels like I'm watching like a play, and in a way that, like I said, I think everybody has an aspect of that, but his is like so much that way. And that makes sense because he's like more of a stage actor than a movie actor. That was more of his career. But I don't know why. Like it just takes me a second, and by the end, it's brilliant. You know, like I'm totally enveloped in it. It totally works with the movie that he is in. But for whatever reason, I don't know why. Because Murray Abraham comes on so fucking hot, like, you know, as like this old man dying, he just tried to kill himself, and he's so good.
And as I stood there, understanding how that bitter old man was still possessing his poor son, even from beyond the grave, I began to see a way, a terrible way, I could finally triumph over God.
Yeah.
He's so fucking good as Salieri that when... And you know, which is interesting because they both got nominated for Best Actor, and F. Murray Abrams wins, which is, you know, an interesting ironic twist there, I suppose. But I think he deserved to too. But like he is so good, but he's also a little more grounded. He's a little not as flighty as Mozart. But then once you start kind of understanding the person of Mozart, that performance makes more sense. And as somebody like, you know, well, I'm an admirer of a lot of classical music, and I listen to classical music. I don't know composers' names and stuff outside of like Mozart, Beethoven, Chopin, some of the big ones. I don't know. I just didn't have a sense of him as a person, like historically.
Right.
You know, that he would be like such a cad, like such a fucker. Because even in the real history of Mozart, he's a dirty little asshole. Like, he's like a dirty little, I don't know what would be the right word. What?
Scoundrel.
He's a scoundrel. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah. Into very much into shit. Very much into shit. You know? Hey, hop in like one of those random factoids. Remember, like, when I sent you on Signal?
Yeah. Yes. Which is something he wrote to his cousin, I believe, right?
Yeah. So,
do you have it, or do I have?
I pulled it up.
Okay.
It was like a letter to his cousin, and she was like an opera singer and has worked with him on a lot of his previous stuff. But it says, "Well, I wish you good night, but first, shut in your bed and make it burn. Sleep soundly, my love. Into your mouth, your ass, you'll shove."
And that was not like, and that's not.
YouTube. You go on YouTube, you can find some fucking like weird jerk that adds like this child choir, like sing this shit, man. Like it's like,
No, well, it's a different thing because it's actually something he wrote.
yeah.
Yeah, he wrote that as like, because towards in the movie gets into this a little bit, which is like kind of towards the end of his career, he kind of started doing parodies of his own work for money.
But like the one I just read you off that so is off the like the Joe Hadron Symphony number 3.
Yeah.
And the literal translation in German is "lick me in the arse."
Yeah.
So like that's trolling. That's trolling in the 1700s, man.
No, it really is. It's
Like I took your third symphony that you're all like about it. I made about something that I'm into down low there. Like it was just absolutely nuts. But it's figure out like this is like one of those things like the more you like look into that time period, because I know you said Salieri, you didn't know much or like a reference point to him. Like I want to get back to that, but it's like one of those things where just kind of look into his, I have a like conversation about like the more you read about that time period and the people that it's based off of, like the more you even appreciate the film, because at the great lengths for Miles like put into this work, it is so rich with like facts from the period and these people. Now, granted, they're a lot of it is fiction, the way they interact, but most of the composition of like each character, like the example.
There's so much
Mozart,
attention. Yes.
It's like he was like kind of immature like type of person, and there's been like some people like compared Mozart to like Michael Jackson, had an overbearing father, got him in the show business at an early age, dragged him around. Now he's emotionally stunted,
for sure.
Nothing any letters that
he's probably
kids, but I mean, I don't know. He's into a lot of I don't know, a lot of butt stuff, a lot of people man stuff. But hey,
it was just child. Yeah, he's German. That's right. Yeah. I mean, but yeah, I think that's totally accurate. I think that's totally apt. And today we'd probably say, oh, he's probably on the spectrum. He's like a savant, kind of like a Rain Man-esque guy.
Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was born on January 27th, 1756, in Salzburg, Austria. As a 3-year-old, Mozart learned the piano by watching his father Leopold teach his older sister Maria Anna.
This child prodigy, who was writing music by the age of 6, began very quickly to develop his skills in all of the different musical forms, and he mastered them all.
Starting at the age of 6 until 17, Mozart traveled and performed across Europe with his sister.
Mozart made a living as a concert pianist, and so he wrote many of his concertos for piano for himself to bring along on tour. He'd write a symphony for this gig he's got next Thursday, and sometimes it was that quick.
By 17, Mozart was appointed assistant concertmaster for the Royal Court of Salzburg, where he expanded his range of musical works.
One of the remarkable things about Mozart is the fact that he succeeded in so many different musical genres, including opera, symphony, chamber music, sonata, even musical comedy. Mozart worked constantly and at a lightning pace.
So there's a lot of contention. Obviously a prodigy, obviously a musical prodigy, obviously could play piano and understood music and could pick up notes and learn things immediately from playing it once. So you could read a sheet of music and play it and never have to look at that sheet of music ever again. Those things are pretty well documented.
Know who else could do that?
Who?
Sir Elton John.
What do you just off?
Oh shit, he's just like Mozart.
Just like Mozart.
The Rocket Man
Yeah,
himself.
Sir Elton John.
Sir Elton John, he also really likes asses.
Yeah, and I bet, a lot of butt stuff. What you swigging down tonight?
Today I wanted to try to find something German, but I couldn't. I was like, German booze, like German whiskey.
Yeah,
I couldn't.
Jägermeister. No
Yeah,
thanks.
yuck, disgusting. One of the worst, most awful things on the planet. I got Bushmills Black,
You got
which
that
is
prodigy whiskey.
dude. Black Bush is great. Bushmills regular, you could just get 2 gingers, save yourself $10. But this is actually really good. This is my favorite. If you're gonna drink Bushmills, this is the one to get. Black Bush. It's very smooth, very smooth, very smooth Irish whiskey.
Nice, man. I'm pulling out the Laforic.
Ooh,
So,
nice.
when you picked me up at the airport for Holiday. That nice smoky.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good.
Yes. But getting the bottle is definitely where to go. You'll go broke and going out anywhere. So
Yeah, isn't that a wake up call? Well, it's probably more of a wake up call to me than to you. But like, I was just like, oh, I forgot how much it costs to just exist, like going to bars and stuff.
no, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And the goddamn hyperinflation, man. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart.
So like, yeah, but Salieri's and Mozart's real relationship is actually pretty friendly. They have a friendly rivalry back in their time. Salieri actually even was Mozart's son's tutor.
Yeah. His youngest son, who died, he was a couple months old when Mozart died. Salieri, along with one of Mozart's pupils, actually helped raise him and train him and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
they are letters. There are letters from Mozart to Leopold Mozart talking about his damn, like you said, damn it. Those Italians, they're always nice to your face, So there was.
Well, no, I think there was no. That's what I mean. It was a professional rivalry. It was not like in the movie where it's like he fucked this girl that I wanted, and I can't forgive him. I gotta burn his life to the ground, bro. I gotta kill this fucking guy. I gotta kill this fucker, and I'm gonna steal his music.
At that moment, I knew, beyond any doubt, he'd had her. The creature had had my darling girl. It was incomprehensible. What was God up to? Was it possible I was being tested? Was God expecting me to offer forgiveness in the face of every offense, no matter how painful? It's very possible. But why him? Why choose Mozart to teach me lessons in humility? My heart was filling up with such hatred for that little man. For the first time in my life, I began to know really violent thoughts. Every day, sometimes for hours, I would pray.
Lord, please, send him away, back to Salzburg, for his sake, as well as mine.
It wasn't quite that. It wasn't quite that crazy.
Yeah, the real Salieri was also married with children as well.
Yeah, no, and also there is pretty confirmed, but still speculative that he slept with that actress that in the movie they say that Mozart slept with, and that's what pisses Salieri off the most. And but in reality, no, he really had an affair with that actress. Yeah,
he was about.
It's completely fabricated, and you know what sucks? Like I was like, man, poor Salieri, dude. Like they write somebody writes a book in like the 1800s. Peter Schaefer reads the book, writes the play Amadeus. They completely change everything for dramatic purposes. I understand it makes it a good story, but most people think that's what happened. Most people think that's what happened. I'm like, poor Salieri. He's just a fucking composer.
That was another factoid. So it was actually an original play written in 1830 by Alexander Pushkin,
Okay.
titled Mozart and Salieri, and in that play, he kills Mozart, and that was the basis for the 1979 play by Peter Shaffer, who came and did that. So what's crazy to think about that timing, because like Mozart died at age 35 in 1791, and this is published in 1830, it was written in 1830. I think it was like 1832, but Salieri dies in like 1833 or something.
Yeah.
And some people like there, because it suggested like that rumors for that playoffs made him go into his like mental breakdown for that, because it was all the like the rumors and everything else, but he was also like suffering from dementia as well at that time.
Yeah.
And so but he did go out that way, and I didn't see anything that he was actually in an insane asylum either.
No, I don't think he was. I don't think he was. Like all that stuff is for dramatic purposes. I mean, clearly, Salieri, for all intents and purposes, is like a different person in the movie or in the play. He doesn't outside of the fact that he was a composer and he was part of the king's court or whatever. He was the throne's composer or whatever.
The Italian subgroup that kind of run everything in Vienna.
Yeah.
Right.
But I love also, like you said,
he was also regarded as a German composer though to everyone that was like from there, because he spent 60 years of his life in Vienna.
In Vienna. Well, which is awesome. Like, it's another thing, like what you were talking about, the attention to detail they brought to this, because there's actual scenes where they talk about, like, no, you have to write your operas in Italian. Like, operas are Italian. That's the Italian thing.
Well, then, we should make some effort to acquire him. We could use a good German composer in Vienna, surely. I'm sure he could be tempted with the right offer. Say, an opera in German for our National Theatre.
Excellent, sire. But not German, I beg your majesty. Italian is the proper language for opera. All educated people agree on that?
And and which is funny, because that was a real thing. That was a real barrier broken down by Mozart. Like, it is something that was actually, of the time period, people were very snobby about these kinds of things, and if your opera wasn't in Italian, well, it wasn't a real opera. And that's why they put so much stock into Mozart trying to change that,
Well, that too, and then like we can talk about Joseph II, right? And so like when he started up there, so there's a lot. So in the film adaptation, and I'm assuming the play, since the film was largely based off the play, made him kind of aloof, easily persuadable by Salieri, blah, blah, blah. But this guy, pre-Hungary, like takeover, like he like was considered like a radical, liberal, very much a patron saint of arts in like that part of Europe, like in the world there, and he wanted very cautious. And if everyone like wondered like, oh, why was the emperor so involved like in the court and what was happening there, right? They don't say, it's not in your face, right? If you're just casual, you don't know anything about the history, like going like into this, then you're thinking like, oh, he was just really into his court because he had nothing better to do, whatever. But he was like, and this is one of the fun things like looking into, like after watching it. But he was really trying to use music and the arts to unite a fractured people through,
through art,
Austro-Turkish war going on. Hungary, there's a lot of fraction. They're trying to unify people, and there's very subtle things in there, like when they like when you talked about like the Italians talk about like, oh, let's let the play be in German when Mozart for his first one was pitched, and then he goes to his his right hand person. He's like, I think it's about time we have something in our own language.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Chamberlain?
In my opinion, sir, it's time we had a piece in our own language. Plain German for plain people.
Mm-hmm. Kapellmeister?
Majesty, I must agree with Herr Direttore. German is, scusate, too brute for singing.
Mm-hmm. Court composer, what do you think?
I think it's an interesting notion to keep Mozart in Vienna, Majesty. It should really infuriate the Archbishop beyond measure, if that is your Majesty's intention.
You are Kativo chord composer.
Like there's this whole thing, and that was a real thing that was happening at the time, right? So there's no,
Yeah.
even though he wasn't aloof and like, you know, this like doty like guy, at least what history suggests that he wasn't, but like in film he's portrayed that way. But that was a real thing, why he was very involved in what's happening, because he truly believed like this is how you win hearts and minds, like through the arts. And so that's why he was very much involved in it.
Very ahead of the curve, right?
It doesn't like throw it in your face like that, but that's why, if you know about Perry, like that's why he was very much like seeing what's going on. It's also more like prominent when Salieri has to spy and he finds out that he's doing, you know, Figaro.
I've just heard some news that may be of interest to you.
What?
Mozart is writing a new opera, an Italian opera.
Italian?
That's not all. He has chosen for his subject Figaro, the marriage of Figaro.
He's setting that play to music.
Yes?
What is this marriage of Figaro?
It's a French play, Kapellmeister. It has been banned by the emperor.
And you want to talk about trolling from the Mozart, or at least in this aspect, right? Where he's like, okay, we're going to take a banned French play. As a German guy, I'm going to take a banned French play, and then I'm going to make the opera in Italian, and I'm going to present it to them, right? And, oh, the audacity, right?
Yeah.
Like that. But you know, and then you know, Joseph II greenlit it, right? But you're to think that like he was just like, oh, easily won over his weight, he was doting, but like that was part of his thing, like, you know, the patron saint, you know, of the arts, of, you know, not being censorship, like that was part of his shtick there. Well, also I found out like the German Nazi historians tried to lay him up as like the precursor for Adolf Hitler, but yeah,
of course they did. Of course they did.
But anyways, but that was his MO. Like, no, like let's do this, you know, and like that, and the subtle hit, like when they're talking about like Figaro, like, no, my poor dear cousin Antoinette, you know, has felt this, you know, or she was like hated by the French people over there because she was, you know, a proxy queen, like in there.
Mm-hmm.
No one trusted. So, anyways, it's just rich and full. That the attention to detail and stuff like that. If you're just like passively watching, you'd think it was like fodder in there, but it was all like so historically contextual to make it up for the.
Well, because it's just like it's stuff that makes like interesting scenes, right? But it is backed by a reality. Like, because you know, I do bristle a little bit when people call this a biopic, because I don't think that's fair. I think that's poor Salieri, as I said. But that is where you get that richness of the period. And when you watch the movie and then preparing to do this, like I watched a few documentaries, I watched the Life of Mozart, I watched stuff about Emperor Joseph himself. Exactly, you're right. Like, it is there. It's in the movie. It's not telling you. There's no exposition dumps. There's nobody explaining it to you, because it doesn't really need to be explained. Like, you get the gist of it by the way people interact with each other. Maybe you don't understand the depth of it, like, right? Like the depth of the reality of it. But you get like what is going on, what is happening to it, to the degree that you need to for the story to function. But it's cool. It's just awesome.
It enhances the watchability too, because you go and you watch it again, and you take that, and it's just there's something new to. And we talk about this all the time with like the Kubrick work, you know, like having something to go back to, like another reason to watch something that you already watched for. This is no light feat. Like, this is a 3-hour commitment, right? Mm-hmm. And like want to go watch it again, you know, like it's. And, you know, that's something. It really speaks to the work, the detail, you know, that went into that.
No, you really do. Like, as soon as the credits roll, like, it is a movie that you're like, oh, I could just start it again. I could just watch it again and go to bed. Maybe I'll fall asleep while I'm watching it, but I could just start it right at the beginning again. And I think a lot of that, what like helps it endure, is because Mozart's music is just that fucking good. Like, it's just that good. Like, you could just sit there and listen to that stuff for hours, and that is the connective tissue of the movie. Like, there's so much of the movie is informed by the music, and this is a little thing that I was not aware of when I watched it, but the music in the movie is, for the most part, is chronological. So you're experiencing Mozart's growth as an artist as you're watching the movie. As he goes to different places, as he, like, you know, you get to kind of experience his life and what informed the writing of music, and that's when that music, like, you know, comes into the movie.
Yeah, loosely, right? Because like when we talk about like right into the beginning, the dramatic, awesome opening, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say other than when Salieri is like giving his confessional, which we should talk about definitely, like the framing of how the story's told and the confessional aspect of it. But yes, yeah, that's when like because he literally like references one of the most famous Mozart pieces ever in that opening scene where he's talking to the priest.
Can you recall no melody of mine? I was the most famous composer in Europe. I wrote 40 operas alone. Here. What about this one?
Yes, I know that. Oh, that's charming. I'm sorry, I didn't know you wrote that.
I didn't. That was Mozart. Wolfgang. Amadeus. Mozart.
Which is a gorgeous scene, gorgeously acted, gorgeously edited. Like the way they bring the music into like him talking about the things like
all throughout the film. It's so awesome.
Yeah, they verbalize music and they make it beautiful. Like how hard is it to articulate like why you like a song? You know what I mean? Like we've all done this. We've all tried to do this. Like why does something work? And it is maybe some of the most perfect articulations of that kind of sentiment.
On the page, it looked nothing. The beginning simple, almost comic. Just a pulse, bassoons, basset horns, like a rusty squeeze box. And then, suddenly, high above it, an oboe. A single note hanging there, unwavering. Until a clarinet took it over. Sweetened it into a phrase of such delight. This was no composition by a performing monkey. This was a music I had never heard. Filled with such longing, such unfulfillable longing. It seemed to me that I was hearing a voice of God.
And you can and by weaving the music, the actual music into it, and actually in messing with it a little bit in the sense where you like, as Salieri is talking about stuff, you're hearing the different parts of the music come in. So they actually pulled the music apart a little bit for those scenes, which was beautiful. It's masterful.
Yes,
and
it is.
You're hearing the symphony come together, and it's so amazing. It's like so hard not to get like emotionally wrapped up in that. Just as a music fan, number one, but also it's a testament to like what music does to human beings, and it reminds you of that. It reminds you like the spiritual nature almost, whether you believe in a soul or not. I'm just saying like this aura, this cosmic nature of music that can affect you on like such a level that you can't understand. You don't understand why you feel that way. And it's amazing that they actually like and that's all Peter Schaefer, like being able to like really like actually put into words why something is beautiful. It's kind of awesome. It's kind of awesome.
No, it really is, man. It really is. But when you're talking about the Mozart's music in chronological order as just going, and just you talk about how awesome, just how the movie starts, just how it starts, just going right into it, right?
It does my favorite thing though. It does my favorite thing though. It does my favorite thing. It does the black screen and the bump bump, like the music starts and you're like, oh dude, we're in it.
just lights on, right? Like
Yeah.
it happened, right? It starts with that. You have like that, like little like slapstick, a little bit of humor, like what's happening, right? And then it goes on and some dramatic. And the symphony that's playing in the beginning is Mozart's like 25th symphony. He wrote that shit when he was 17 years old, right?
Oh.
Like regarded as like one of his most tragic symphonies because of the style, manner, and what you've done it, blah 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 blah. Like 17 years old, right? That's fucking like starts off with it and just gets it right from the get-go, right? And then get in there and the tone is so off-putting, right? Because like you said, black, and then boom boom comes in with the drums. It starts right into that one, and then you get these two dopey-looking servants,
Yeah.
come on, and then the guy holding the candle in hand, and he's trying to
Oh, the guy! I love that guy. He's a great character actor. He's that I call him Lurch, but that's not very nice. But
Is that good? Signore, believe me, this is the most delicious thing I ever ate in my life. Really, Signore, you don't know what you're missing.
No, not nice at all. But he's trying to get there, right? Then they go in there, and then you see this guy he just saw himself now. Now he's being carried away, and as he's being carried away, it picks up on like the third version of that symphony where it's just you got the fiddles, violins going in there, like just intense, like getting them out there. So the whole time, like, what is happening? It's just like a great way to get into this journey, right? And then, man, but just
because like we said before, it is like structured like an opera. You have this. It starts with this crashing, big, dramatic moment. A guy tries to slit his own throat. Like what's more dramatic than trying to kill yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And then just and then the fallout of that, and then like bringing the music, and then he's remembering, he's having like his life is flashing before his eyes. So you're seeing him at some court dance, walking around being a pretentious douchebag, mm-hmm. And like. It's such a dramatic and intense and fun way to bring you into that world, even though you just saw a guy try to kill himself. And that's another thing about this movie. What actually probably the greatest coup of this film, and it's much to Milos Forman's credit, is the way it balances disparate tones. This movie is melodramatic, regular dramatic, funny. It's often very funny. Like mm-hmm. in a way that is like it's self-aware. It knows that this is kind of goofy. Mm-hmm. He knows it kind of like it kind of acknowledges that to the audience, and that is actually because I was I started out talking about Tom Hulce's performance. It's actually the brilliance of his performance is that he knows what movie he's in. He knows what he's doing, and you don't realize that. You kind of don't realize that until you watch the entire movie. From my experience. He knows what movies he's in, and because he does the same thing. He has to do this juggling act with that character, where to try to bring there's literally like slapstick humor. There's like Three Stooges shit in this movie. Excuse me. Yeah. It's like, and it never feels wrong. It never feels out of place. It all feels part and parcel. And wow, like what a craftsman. And like, Milos Forman as a director, like he's done some he's a heavy hitter to a certain degree. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Amadeus, The People versus Larry Flint. Which is Hair. He did Hair.
Never seen it.
Man on the Moon with Jim Carrey. Remember that movie? I think Amadeus is his best movie, and then his second best is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I don't think as a director he ever achieved anything even remotely close to this ever again, before or after. Like this is like almost like lightning in a bottle, once in a lifetime achievement. Like it's so. I don't know how you do that. How do you do that? How do you plan for that? Is it unexpected? Is it in post? Is it on the day? Like, how do you, like, in your mind, like, holding all of this together, this vision? Like, some of this has to be happy accidents. Some of this has to be finding it as you're making it. Or maybe I'm just completely wrong. I don't know. Because there's a technical...
said, this had, when he was reading Mozart's, like, first piece, first time I saw him, he's like, this is by no dancing monkey, Forman monkey.
Oh, my God, I know.
This, or it better be, right? That, just like a bunch of people that understood the assignment, right? So they just had a great script, a great director, and then just the editing, like missing. It's just like a perfect marriage there, right? So I mean,
yeah,
definitely was lightning in the bottle. I mean, I know there's like people online that want to nitpick on like continuity issues, but from just the visual and audio experience of this, like you couldn't ask.
It's perfect cinema. It is the alchemy between every different like discipline, visual, auditory.
Or like when all the Italians were trying to like Charlie Brown Mozart with his opera, right? He's like, it's perfect. How can I rewrite perfection, right?
Kind of, yeah.
Like this film, like how would you make this? How would you make this better? It's you'll have to answer it now because you won't be able to answer it, 3 weeks from now or a year from now. So like you can't.
Well, it's funny. I don't think I've ever seen the theatrical cut. I'm not sure I've ever seen that, which is like 22 minutes shorter.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched something about the one thing that the director's cut adds that's not in the theatrical cut, which seems very bizarre, is the scene basically where Salieri, what do you call it?
He sends him to that rich guy to go teach his daughter, and then the dogs come out and keep interrupting.
No. Well, yeah, that's definitely part. It's Constance, Mozart's wife, when he propositions her so that he can get like the job, basically.
So you will help us?
I dine with the Emperor tomorrow evening. One word from me and the post is his.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you.
Come back tonight.
Tonight?
Alone.
What for?
Some service deserves service in return. No?
What do you mean?
Isn't it obvious? It's a post all Vienna seeks. If you wish it for your husband, come tonight.
I'm a married woman, sir.
Then don't. It's up to you. And not to be vague, that is the price.
Mm-hmm.
That's not in the theatrical cut.
Well,
the scene where she comes and brings the music is there, but him propositioning her and her showing up that night is not in the theatrical cut. But the scene where she feels uncomfortable and wants him to leave at the end of the movie is still in it.
What are you doing here?
Your husband took sick. I brought him home.
Why you?
Because, Madame, I was at hand.
Well, thank you very much. You can go now.
He needs me, ma'am.
No, he doesn't. And I don't want you here.
Yeah.
So you don't understand why there's a tension there, because that scene's not there. Because I think the theatrical cut is PG, and the director's cut is rated R, because you see her boobs, which seems kind of crazy. But
yeah. Well, the theatrical cut got released in 2002, right? So
yeah.
If that was the way it was in '84, you'd still get that 1980s PG rating, right? So, am I right?
No, you would. I think you might have got a rated R. You probably, because there was no PG-13. I think when this was made, the reason why the PG-13 was created in the first place is actually because of Temple of Doom, the second Indiana Jones movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because Steven Spielberg had so much pull with those people, he was just like, well, it's not really PG, but it's also really not rated R. Can we find something in the middle? And they were like, sure, Steven.
We got you.
Yeah, and then it ended up being rated PG. So, but that's why the PG-13 was created.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. I would like to watch a theatrical cut because I'm curious if you tighten it up a little bit, if it would actually be better, a better experience. Like if it would just flow better. Because the video I watched basically kind of implied that the scenes that are added are a little bit redundant. They're extensions of scenes, and they kind of accomplish that without having to have the extension of the theatrical cut. So I'd be very curious to see if it's just a tighter experience, But like I said though, I don't because this is the only way I've ever really consciously watched the movie. I might have seen the theatrical cut when I was a really little kid, but I don't remember it. It flows very well for me. I never thought it was too long or paced poorly or awkward. It's always just been gangbusters because it moves so fast.
It does. It really does. Man. Goddamn. We're talking about little factoids too. Just I know it's stupid, but I wanted to. I got so excited when I saw it because I was like, oh, I saw that in there. It was I guess Mozart real life, he was really into billiards a lot. So a lot of things you see throughout the film where he's on the billiards composing on that too. That made sense.
Yeah.
And it was just another little Easter egg where things I enjoyed of
or that Salieri apparently had a sweet tooth.
Yeah.
So in the movie, he's always talking about this delicious cream, this Italian cream.
It's cream cheese mixed with granulated sugar, suffused with rum. Crema al mascarpone, speziale.
Here, have this pastry. Eat this thing. This is Venus's nipple.
Let me offer you some refreshments. Do you know what these are? Capezzoli di Venere, nipples of Venus. They're Roman chestnuts in brandied sugar. Try one. Go on, try one.
He's all about the sweets in the movie, and I was just like, you didn't know that. You would not know that. They don't explain it to you. But it's just a nice little character piece, and then you watch a A&E documentary or something, and they're like, yeah, Salieri had a sweet tooth, and he was kind of preoccupied with sweets. He talked about it all the time. He'd write letters to people. He really loved food. He was Italian.
Yeah. That was one of the things he was known for.
It's actually one of my favorite F. Murray Abraham moments, where he's just we all have our patriotism, our version of patriotism.
Italian. Forgive me, we all have patriotic feelings of some kind.
Because even though he lives in Vienna, he's still a proud Italian man. He doesn't forget that. And you were, at that time, you were kind of allowed to have that. You were allowed to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people might talk shit about Italians or whatever.
That's also, too, in the manner and the tone where he said that in that scene you're speaking of, we all have our ideals of patriotism. And it's a throwback to one of the first times that Mozart met the emperor, and he's going on, and then that great exchange. He's like, "No, please let it be in German." He's like, "Why? It's full of German virtue." He's like, "What? Like love?" He's like, "Oh, the Italians know nothing about love." And they're all saying, so actually, I don't think you do.
Well, tell him, Mozart. Name us a German virtue.
Love, sire.
Oh, love! Well, of course, in Italy we know nothing about love.
No, I don't think you do. I mean, watching Italian opera. All those male sopranos screeching, stupid fat couples rolling their eyes about. That's not love, it's just rubbish.
And then he starts going on the technicalities and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Ideologies, Paris, and stuff like that. And then, so just talking about it. And that was also in the thing. It wasn't on the nose, it wasn't on your face, but there was a very, populist, cultural, control, not control, but damage control thing going on right there. The emperor was trying to do with music, they kind of blabbered on about earlier too. So I also kind of was a throwback to that, because the way he brought up when he was explaining that cream to him, was like, oh, it's Italian. He's like, well, yeah, so like throw back like, hey, fuck you.
He's like, it's a cream cheese with sugar sprinkled on it and melted in, infused with a touch of rum.
Yeah, man. But yeah, the last time we got together to talk about something, we were talking about the great Wesley Snipes, Dr. Snipes, or going about like what the hell is a spiritual thriller and everything like that too. I'd make the case that this is a spiritual thriller through the lens and the narration of Salieri. Right?
I like how you did that, Paul. I like how you did that, and I agree. I do agree, because I think it is about man's relationship with God and what that means to him and how he defines it. Salieri is interesting because Salieri, on his own terms, sets the terms between himself and God. He says, I will give you everything. I'll give you my labor, my virtue. I'll give you everything. If you just...
I love that line, my industry.
My industry. Exactly, yes. That's what I was looking for. Because I wrote in my notes, I said, let me see, where is it? Salieri's prayer is the prayer of the untalented, willing to give up everything in your life to achieve the object of one's passion. You will give everything to be what you want, which is not fair, by the way. It's not fair. I don't mean that literally. I mean that relative to his relationship to Mozart, and it kind of informs that. But he would give up anything to be that. He would sacrifice everything to be a great composer. And that's why he hates Mozart, because Mozart doesn't even have that in him to do, and he is better than him. And that is really, that's why Salieri literally basically sets the terms for God, decides God has not met these terms when he meets Mozart, and then decides to fucking fight God.
From now on, we are enemies. You and I. Because you choose for your instrument a boastful, lustful, smutty, infantile boy, and give me for reward only the ability to recognize the incarnation. Because you are unjust, unfair, unkind. I will block you. I swear it. I will hinder and harm your creature on earth as far as I am able.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a set of that, right? So you kind of get into several deadly sins and all this stuff like that, right?
Well, he becomes death at the end of the movie.
You make your whole because as he says to the priest when this all starts off, right? This goofy happy-go-lucky num-nums that comes in, which is a great scene though, like him walking to go approach an older Salieri, but just kind of talking about this and from his childhood, what was instilled in him. He made this plea to God for, I want to be the best, let me sing in your glory, and then in exchange I'll give you my chastity, my industry, everything. And then his dad dies, right? And so he's just coming off that, and so never what Chuck says, he's like, well, how are you? I think that's what he said to him. Wouldn't you think that he responded, right? So if the priest wasn't incompetent, he would have replied back, God does not answer back, and where's your brother or anything, biblical in alignment with that, right? But instead he lets them keep going, but he starts just going off in that, and so it starts compiling into this, right? So it gives up everything else. What do you have is sugar, and with Salieri, and I think it's throughout the film, so we said it's a factoid, right? It's a historical fact that he had a sweet tooth. What I thought was really interesting to this film, watching again several times, leading up to this discussion, was I would say strategic placement, because everything is in every frame for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Everything is, right? Unless if you're Tom Green, right? And then you got sausages and shit flying everywhere. It's chaos. But everything is in there for every. So it's a strategic use of sugar, everywhere, right? So right in the opening scene, we talked about it earlier with the servants, hey, come here, we have desserts for you, right?
Yeah.
Is that good? Signore, believe me, this is the most delicious thing I ever ate in my life.
Right? That's happening there. And then The one that I like the most is like when the scene where he's trying to see her Mozart for the first time, and he has that great he starts going off Mozart's background. He wrote his first cantate when he was 4. At the age of 7, he did this full scale opera. Blah, blah. Does this type of talent show on someone's face? Can I be able to see this? Walking around, and then what happens? What happens is he's like pompously looking around, trying to size up at like all these strangers to see, will her Mozart's talent just be manifested into a person? Will I be able to say, oh, that's Mozart, right?
As I wandered through the salon, I played a little game with myself. This man had written his first concerto at the age of 4. His first symphony at 7. A full-scale opera at 12. Did it show? Is talent like that written on the face?
Like, what happens? He derails his whole search because he sees the servants with the dessert crew go by, and he just stops. And then I watch this again too, because the door stops. Then he waits for them to come out. Then he comes in, opens the door, and it's very seduction.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting parallel.
And his life is like, oh man! And he goes up there, and it's a beautiful scene too, like going up onto all these dessert trays, right? And he goes up to those chocolate bonbons. He's like, oh yes, and he goes reaches right in there, right? And then serendipitously,
Mozart appears. Yeah,
Mozart come right in there, and then he gets to see that unfold, right? And so even though he's been busted, like the first thing he does is like, I'm going to eat this sucker because you're not going to like put it back on the thing, anyways, right? So he gets there, and then he just like watches this unfold, right? And then so that happens. So that was his exposure time, but very underwhelming. But like, whoa! But there wasn't any hate there, right? And then they had the other beautiful scene where he goes up and he's reading his music there. He's like, it's so comically basic, and then he starts talking about it, and then musically, so he stops verbally speaking about what he saw, and then he's just start using hand motions, and then the music starts playing like we talked about earlier. Just what a beautiful way to articulate, or in this case, illustrate, with audio, how beautiful something is, right?
Yeah.
So that's that. But then the next one, what I thought was interesting was, God, what the hell is her name? Like Madame Cavalieri, the main like opera singer, right? She comes in there and just looks like a goddamn snack.
Maestro? Well, how do you like it?
Like a Turkish delight. She even makes it.
Sure.
Yeah. This. It's Turkish, and they'll just wrap it like that candy, right? Just
Paul.
Looking like a goddamn snack. And then I think this is important because not only does she look like the sweets, the only thing in his life that he allowed for him to indulge in, right? Gluttony, like it was with sugar, and it's wrapped up in a little bit like with this, beautiful opera singer, and he's got a passion for both. Her looks, like he self-admitted to the priest, like maybe I loved her, maybe it was a little bit of lust, but I loved her, right? But wrapped up in sweets, looking like a snack. Beautiful voice, and starts going there and starts talking about, what do you know about her Mozart? And that's the catalyst of that. Just starts the film that starts getting that resentment for him in that one. Like, I think that's the first time that he references as Mozart as the creature is like right there, like in this, right?
Yeah, because it runs parallel to how he feels about himself and his own talent relative to Mozart's, right? Like even in something like this, even in this circumstance, where he knows this woman, he's like kind of a tutor to her. She's been in his operas, and still she wants Mozart. She doesn't want Salieri. So much so that she has friend-zoned him to the point where she will talk about Mozart in a romantic manner in front of him.
What does he look like?
Mozart? You might be disappointed.
Why?
Looks and talent don't always go together, Caterina.
Looks don't concern me, Maestro. Only talent interests a woman of taste.
Shall we continue?
Mm-hmm.
What a bitch.
Right? He goes, I don't think he'd be, I think he'd be disappointed if you saw him. No, a woman of taste only cares about talent. And then, ooh, and that's his core being, right? That's what he wants. And that was like real, just like, okay, now it's no longer like, now I'm underwhelmed and like, what do we have here? But this is so music. He's still at that point of his version of the story and what we're exposed to. He's still thinking, trying to figure out, was this a mistake? What he read the first time he saw Mozart, or is there like more to it, right? It's just coming out that way, right? And then I think it's interesting because like with the next stop, because when he talks about even when he goes to the priest, I've done so much, pro bono, work for other people before, I give lessons of free people. I've done all this charity work, blah blah.
Yeah.
But everything is consumed by his glutton lust, which turns into wrath and envy, right? And it's just this constant thing where he's like delusional with himself.
Well, he's vain.
Gets so blinded by it, right?
He's
But
a
we
vain
see
man.
it- yeah, we see it with the other like strategic use of this drug, because the sugar is like the catalyst for everything else that makes them spiral, and everything that's like malicious, like it's involved. There's like sugar involved. There's some type of sweet involved in the frame with that. The only time you don't have that is when he's like really focused in the room, like with Mozart, because he's no longer has a glutton for that. He has a glutton. It's now onto his talent and wanting to be, with that. Or
It's the only thing that can pull Mozart's the only thing that can pull him from his vice, like his natural vice, right?
Exactly. And
That's
so
why
we see it.
it's almost like he almost loves Mozart. Like
Yes.
in other
Very much a
circumstances.
Joker Batman dynamic there, right?
Yeah.
But you get, so even with like the scene prior with Cavalieri, already looking like a snack. He doesn't need any sweets or there. He's got what he needs right there, and he's going into this. You get to hear voice, you get to see the presentation. That's great. But then we go to the next scene when he has another like student there. Doesn't look like doesn't look like Cavalieri, right? It's just very like Moss looking, so you kind of assume that it's like one of his pro bono cases. And then he's also got a dish of sweets right there. And you can see he's like so disinterested because as they're going on and playing it there, he's eyeing the sweets and trying to do this, and she catches notice of that and starts like what the hell. And what really seals the deal is when the servant comes in and finds out that Franz Mozart is here to see him, to go secretly hand him the work, and that's when the proposition, she ends up making the proposition, so he gets so he can have a shot at get the royal appointment, right?
Yeah.
And so and that happens, and then it goes right into, and he said earlier, he's like, these are the nipples of Venus, right? And so now it's like chocolate presented way in a more provocative way, which kind of foreshadows like what he's about to make a very indecent proposal to her. This is the most highly sought out position in all of court of Vienna. Yes, I think you know what I mean. You come back here tonight, and like doing that as he's like reading the originals, which is another great use of like like reading it and hearing the music, and it's just like,
oh my god, it's actually one of my favorite F. Murray Abrams moments in the whole movie. It's just that shot where the camera's looking at him from a downward angle as he has like the book, the leather book of the compositions.
Astounding. It was beyond belief. These were first and only drafts of music. But they showed no corrections of any kind. Not one. He had simply written down music already finished in his head. Page after page of it, as if he were just taking dictation. And music, finished as no music is ever finished. Displace one note, and there would be diminishment. Displace one phrase, and the structure would fall. It was clear to me that sound I had heard in the Archbishop's palace had been no accident. Here again was the very voice of God. I was staring through the cage of those meticulous ink strokes at an absolute beauty.
And he's like starts crying because he's so fucking impressed but angry.
Yeah, he's like, these are originals. There's no mistakes. Just like what he wanted was written with. That's what's happening. And like, oh, it's beautiful. There's like one of those little trivia things they put on Amazon. What's that actress's name? Was playing Frau Mozart. She was each take she was actually eating those like nipples of Venus. Those actually made of marzipan.
Marzipan, yeah.
She wasn't supposed to eat them, and she ate like 15 of them, and like really
Yeah, it was
sick.
Elizabeth Barrage, and she actually was a pitch hitter. She came in because the original woman that was cast strained her Achilles heel. It was Jennifer Tilly's sister, Meg Tilly.
Oh.
Yeah, she was originally cast as Constance Mozart, and she's just like an adorable, effervescent presence. You just kind of like her.
Yeah.
But I think you're onto something there. I think there is a parallel between like Salieri's fixation with sweets and how he uses that as his almost as the movie goes on, like he uses it as a tool to seduce people to do his bidding. And you see that a few times because you see that also with the person that he hires to be Mozart's maid. He plies her with sweets.
There we go. Yeah, you jumped the gun on me on one of them.
Sorry. Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's like when Mozart visits Salieri, which isn't very long after his wife creatively came. That's when they had that whole discussion of whatever, creme misapoli, or it's like the cream cheese with rum, right? And so just like when he saw it, the sweets explained in the nipples of Venus. Explain this, like the only time you ever see him get really passionate or anything is talking about the sweets and everything like that. It's cream seared with rum and blah blah. Then they have the whole exchange. Italian, well, there's got to be some instance of patriotism, right? But then that's where he's setting them up. He knows from his wife coming in earlier that they're broke and he needs something, and then just well, you're not broke, are you?
200 florins. That's all I need. 100. 50. What exactly are you working on? I really can't say. I don't think you should become known in Vienna as a debtor, Mozart.
And this, I don't think it's going to be good for, and just completely maniacal. Just like I don't think it's your best interest to be known in Vienna as a debtor. It's stuff that just kind of like set him off that way, too. But but you just mentioned too when he gets that spy, maid spy, come out that he's always he's giving her a treat. In addition, to her money as well.
You're a good girl. You're very kind to do this. The next time you're sure they'll be out of the house, let me know.
Thank you, sir.
But then, and then eventually the film ends with the asylum worker taking him out. Now it's time for your favorite breakfast, sugar rolls.
Morning, Professor. Time for the water closet. And then we have your favorite breakfast for you. Sugar rolls. He loves those. Fresh sugar rolls.
I will speak for you, Father. I speak for all mediocrities in the world. I am their champion. I am their patron saint.
And like at sugar rolls, and like he says that to him. Then what's he do? He has that great moment where he's just like,
"I am the patron
saint of mediocrity, and I absolve you."
I absolve you. I absolve you. I absolve you.
You know, to the Faku priest, and then going down to everyone, I absolve you, to all the crazy people down the hallway, I absolve you, I absolve you. And then you hear, like, you know, Mozart's laughter. In the beginning, you know, which is like one of those, like, you know, aware moments, like, yeah, we know what we're making here, right? So, like, complete nutty, and it's no pun intended. Well, actually, pun intended, because it was a loony house. It was nutty. It was a very, like, dramatic outro, very much the way the movie started, right?
Yeah.
But just getting your sugar rolls, all this stuff like that, and then just the catalyst for everything, just embracing everything. Fuck on everything. I am the champion. I am the patron saint. Because as a mediocre guy like me, you know, I got one on God. I destroyed something else like that. And I absolve all of you, and just, like, gloating in it, right? And it just, every time he does something sinister, there's always a strategic placement or mention of, like, sugar through it. So I just thought,
well, it also defines Salieri's priorities and why he's not as good as Mozart. Mozart does not have such distractions when it comes to his work. Salieri does. It's all Salieri fucking talks about. Like, in terms of, like, what we see in the movie, right? So we actually see because the thing about this intro, like, you know, Mozart is a savant. He's, you know, he's a prodigy, but he also worked his ass off. That's all he did all day, every day was this, and that's what it takes to be the best. Salieri wants to talk about fucking cream. He wants to talk about pastries. Like, it's not there on. It's subtle. Like, it's like a subconscious layer to his character of being like, what is the difference between Salieri and Mozart? Why is Mozart Mozart, and why is Salieri Salieri?
Right.
Like, you could view that definitely as, like, a subtextual reading of the movie.
And that's a very interesting point too, because another way where they illustrated that as well was when Mozart was working on the Requiem. And then there's pounding on the door, and then, you know, fine, Mozart doesn't, you know, she's got to let him know, but you hear the music, it's just so, it's absurdly loud, you know, in terms of the course of the film, right? It's doing this, and then when she's like, Wolfie, like, for the third time, and just, and it all stops. And that was just a great way without saying it, like, that's what he's hearing, like, as he's writing down, that's what he's hearing. He doesn't hear anything else, even though it's so absurd out of the night, and someone's pounding on the door, and his wife is yelling about that. He's, like, focused in on that, so there's no truffle or Turkish delight that's going to take him away from, you know, knocking powering us through, right?
He's not interested in pomp and circumstance or status or being part of the court or whatever. He's like the consummate artist, where Salieri is talented, but he's too mannered. He's too controlled. He's too considerate. He's too, honestly, he's too adult. He's too adult. Like, right? What is like, you know, he has adult considerations. And if you're an artist and you're like, that is, like, kind of your enemy, is adult considerations.
Right.
Because it stops you from focusing. It stops you from working as hard as you could on something, right? Like, practicing, whatever you want to call it. Like, adult considerations are the thing that stop most of us from doing the things that we would like to do or whatever. But also, even if we have the time, though, like, the gumption to actually be a Mozart is both simultaneously, like, heinous and amazing. Because you got to be a real piece of shit to be Mozart. You got to be kind of a narcissistic douchebag. Like, all you care about is your art. All you care about is your work. You go out and party, and then you go back and you work, and that's all you do. Most people can't do that because they have a conscience. Like, they can't do it. You know, we have to, like, oh, fuck, I have a kid, I have a wife, I got to take care of things, I got to pay a bill, I got to do this. Like, we can't do that.
So Ebert did a short review on Amadeus, right? And, like, one of the things he put out there is, like, you know, Amadeus, you know, ends up being, you know, the punk rock aspect, the punk rock of Vienna, right?
And the movie was directed by Milos Forman, the same man who made Hair, and in this movie he uses something of the same approach, portraying Mozart as sort of a rebel who shocked his elders. The other people in the movie looked like 18th century figures. They wear wigs, which were in fashion at the time, but Halta's wig somehow looks a little bit more like a punk hairdo, and his attitude is a little more punk too.
And like one of the things he pointed out was telling us, like, you know, he wore the pink wig. Every wig he had some type of flair outside of, you know, the standard like wigs that were there, and he wanted to stand out, right? And just like in the very beginning, right? Let's not do Italian, let's do it in German. You know, let's do this and blah blah, and just like
but Mozart's like he's like an original rock star. I mean, that's what he is.
Mm-hmm.
With all the decadence and the depravity and the fucking the lifestyle that he couldn't afford to live, but just like most of our most talented people, our most brilliant thinkers, they die paupers. Mozart died a pauper and was buried in a common grave, which is actually a pretty impactful moment in the film when they show you them throwing his body in that mass grave.
Spiritus Sancti.
The common grave too, right? And that's a thing too, like with like Salieri and his like disconnect, right? So even he was so blinded by his envy, like, and wrath, like through this, that he didn't even see what was right in front of him, that he was struggling the way Salieri was, right, but just in a different way, right?
Yeah.
Where like you said, he was the adult. Salieri is the adult in this version, and like way more, you know, mannered. They had his stuff together and like everything else. And where he is a freaking wreck, a hot mess that can barely function, and you know, just got off the confines of like his father, and then broke away, and then just quickly spiraled out of control and never got to grow up, right? Under any like care. And you couldn't even see how sad, like, you know, his life, you know, is, knowing full well of the hardships that he had, and like all that stuff, because he's so blinded that he's got one thing that I don't have. You know, he's got that thing that I don't have. That's all he had over him, was his ability to compose, like, you know, greatness, you know, not mediocrity, as he would, like, you know, self-explain with that. You know, it was crazy, man. It was absolutely crazy.
I think you're completely right, though. Everything is relative. Salieri cannot see the relativity in Mozart's life. He doesn't take the time. He doesn't care. It's just like this is an affront to him. Salieri immediately considers this a personal affront to him by God. Not by man, not by Mozart, by God.
Yeah.
He thinks God has told him to go fuck himself. Like, those are the stakes for Salieri.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting that Salieri also loves music. And he loves good music, good art.
Yes.
He cannot pull himself away from the gravity of Mozart. One of my favorite moments in the movie is when they talk about the opera Don Giovanni. It's right after Leopold Mozart dies. Wolfgang is in a really dark place. He writes Don Giovanni. The play, as far as the movie goes, the opera is only performed 5 times. And Salieri is like, oh, God damn it, I went to see every single one of them.
Through my influence, I saw to it Don Giovanni was played only 5 times in Vienna. But in secret, I went to every one of those 5. Worshipping sound I alone it seemed to hear.
Yeah,
like it is touched, enlightened music. It is something to experience. That's the great thing about Salieri's, and that's the great thing about Salieri's character. That's the great thing about F. Murray Abrams' performance, is having that duality, that fucking like, I'm so close to being you, and I can't be you, and I know I can't, and also just loving every fucking thing you do.
You
know?
That Don Giovanni, that's a great one to bring up too, because it showed, also too, that he was just such a secret, admirer as well, right? He let it known, like, oh yes, I like his work, but he had a deep passion, like he was obsessed with it, right? But the realization where he's like, he brought his dead father back from the dead to, chastise him across in front of the whole world.
There on the stage stood the figure of a dead commander, and I knew, only I understood, that the horrifying apparition was Leopold, raised from the dead. Wolfgang had actually summoned up his own father to accuse his son before all the world. It was terrifying and wonderful to watch.
And only I knew what he did, and it was both horrifying and magnificent at the same time.
Yeah.
And then sparked the idea. He's like, now I know what I need to do.
And as I stood there, understanding how that bitter old man was still possessing his poor son, even from beyond the grave, I began to see a way, a terrible way, I could finally triumph over God.
Which was his final act, right? I'm going to dress, in the dark masquerade, just like his father did. That
the party, yeah.
Earlier, and how he portrayed him in Don Giovanni, the masked dead general, right? And I'm going to show up to his house dressed like that and ask him to write a requiem that he doesn't even know it's going to be for his own dream. And then, like, with that, it's just like that beautiful scene, right, where he's in there with Greece. The symphony, the 25th symphony, starts gearing up again. He's like, I'm going to have a piece of this, mediocrity. God will be forced to watch me, take down his own man. It's like it just lays out this whole picture of this beautiful, scene, this big funeral mass, everything, all performed by his beloved friend Salieri. Ah, yes, yes, yes.
My plan was so simple that it terrified me. First, I must get the death mass, and then I must achieve his death. What? His funeral. Imagine it. The cathedral. All Vienna sitting there. His coffin. Mozart's little coffin in the middle. And then, in that silence, music. A divine music bursts out over them all. A great mass of death. Requiem Mass for Wolfgang Mozart, composed by his devoted friend, Antonio Salieri. Oh, what sublimity, what depth, what passion in the music. Salieri has been touched by God at last, and God forced to listen. Powerless to choose, powerless to stop. I, for once, in the end, laughing at him.
And it stops, and then it goes right to comedy. It's just like, but then his death, though. It's one thing to dream about it.
Yeah,
yeah. It's going into it, right?
The only thing that worried me was the actual killing. How does one do that? How does one kill a man? It's one thing to dream about it. Very different when you have to do it with your own hands.
Which, in the end, because you mentioned it, getting thrown into the common grounds. It's outdoors, raining. Handful of people show up, and the Requiem, Mozart's actual Requiem, is playing in the background. It's unfinished, but because it sets up and it's not in your face, but it's only playing like in his head because he wrote it out to the night. He's the only one that gets to know this because it never finished and didn't get released till like decades after his death, right?
Yeah.
And so like like it's playing in his head. He just sees this thing in his face like this wasn't how this was supposed to be, right? This is
well, that's the interesting that
why I hate God, because he would rather him die in return than give me some like let me resemble like close to greatness for just one moment, right?
Just for one moment, exactly. But that's the thing about the most interesting thing about Salieri is that he is both like repentant and unrepentant at the same time. Because when Constance Mozart puts
humble and selfish at the same time, in his earlier life, dude.
But when Constance they stay up all night writing the Requiem. He's there which is a great scene. It's actually one of the greatest scenes in the movie, is when they're writing the Requiem. And it was some great interplay between F. Murray Abrams and Tom Hulce, where Tom Hulce would actually skip lines and skip instructions to confuse F. Murray Abrams, so he wouldn't know where he was, so he would actually look confused.
In reality, what happened on that day is there's a little John Strauss is sitting in the corner pressing the buttons on a little cassette player. We have little hearing aids in our ears which are playing in a kind of AM radio way the musical phrase so that we can be on the tempo and on the pitch, that when all the music gets laid in afterwards, that it's there. And there was some mishap, so there's a moment where me, the actor, I'm genuinely lost. But because of the kind of trust and connection that we had, the whole sequence is in the film.
There were 2 cameras set up so that we didn't have to worry about overlapping, and it was as though we were in a theater. And most of that is improvisational because he was very, very acting as though he were very sick at the time, and consequently he began to lose certain things, and I would guide him, actually, at times. He would get lost and I would help him. It was a real symphony between the two of us, a real duet.
Later on in the scene, I don't know that I ever talked to Murray about this, but I would skip information.
First bassoon, tenor trombones, with the tenors.
I would leave out information that I knew he needed to go to the next place.
You go too fast. Do you have it? You go too fast. Do you have it? First bassoon, tenor trombone, what? With the tenors.
So he'd have to stop me, and that Salieri would seem like he just wasn't quite smart enough.
Now, trumpets and timpani, trumpets in D.
No.
Listen to me.
I don't understand.
Listen.
So that kind of playing that you can do because there were cameras on both of us and also because of a superb partnership between 2 players.
They also kept kind of distant from each other while they were making the movie, so they would be kind of antagonistic. But the scene where Constance puts the fucking thing, she locks it away. She puts it in this thing and she locks it away. And he can't have it anymore. And he can't claim it as his own because his fucking wife came home. And he's still, as a 70-some-odd-year-old man, it's just like, oh, I wanted to fucking claim it. It was mine. It was mine.
Right there for the taking.
And he's so acrimonious about it. And it's actually one of the great old man makeups because it's like it looks theatrical, but it's not too much. And just the way he could emote through that stuff was so good. Like, I love like every moment with F. Murray Abrams is like one of my favorite like movie moments ever. Like, he is so fucking good.
He is.
He is so fucking good. And it's crazy when you see interviews with him because he's like a Brooklyn, New York dude wearing Hawaiian shirts with a goofy. He looks like fucking Weird Al. And like, but he's such a good fucking actor. Actually, one of my favorite little like asides is that F. Murray Abrams is also in the film Last Action Hero. And the kid who goes into the movie world where Last Action Hero is happening says, hey, that's the guy that killed Mozart.
And this is top secret.
I know the Vivaldi mob is joining forces with the Torellis.
Damn it, Jack, how do you do that?
Well, I'm not parked behind the desk all day eating those donuts.
Those are government donuts, my friend. It's not easy work. I gotta call DC.
Good for you.
Watch it, Jack. He killed Mozart.
in a movie.
Amadeus, you won 8 Oscars.
Well, I saved his life in Nam, so make sure to be on the lookout. Thanks. Now, no more movies.
Which I always thought was very funny because
Love it. But one thing about when you're talking about the difference, we did this bit earlier about the difference between Salieri and Mozart, right? He doesn't want to talk about desserts. He wants the work, right? Which was like Mozart's curse, because we were like, you got to be a vain piece of shit to be Mozart, because all he does is work and then just go out and drink, right? And so when that lifestyle caught with him, where his wife like took the kid and left, like it was one of my favorite scenes of like the whole film, where she's in there just giving Mozart the business going on there, and then all of a sudden he gets inspired for the Queen of the Night area thing.
Yeah. Yeah, for the magic flute. Yeah.
It just starts going on. It's just, that one's like the Queen of the Night piece, right? That part of the it's just like just going on to that, and just like, even though like she's giving him the business about, you ain't shit, I told you not to, you want to put the business in, blah blah blah. He just just hears it. He just stops. He's not having a profound moment like, oh God, yeah, I am a piece of shit. He's just like, oh, that would work great with.
You selfish thing! Selfish, that's what you are, selfish! Simply selfish!
What I'm doing,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, listen.
It goes right into a beautiful opera scene of like that actually happening.
One of the most, excuse me, one of the most difficult arias to this day to do is from the magic flute, and it's from that. It's what you're talking about. I'll edit it in here because I cannot do it.
Well,
but
dude, future Shaun. So let's keep a note of that, right? Because that song, probably when I was a kid, I want to pull up the lyrics so that to revisit it, dude. It's fucking metal, man. It's fucking metal. And I'm like, well, I remember, because remember in Alaska, I went to that face where I was just like, oh man, I was listening to all this like metal versions of Beethoven. I was like, that is so rad. That's so rad. I'm like, somebody had to have done that with Mozart, But just that song, the Queen of the Night. I just want to read that line to you. It's like, hell's vengeance boils in my heart. Death and despair blaze about me. If Sarasado does not through you through the pains of death, then you will be my daughter nevermore. And then like it goes on more along the lines of that too. But that's supercut all the metal versions of that. I'll shoot you the link to post, man.
Metal versions right now. Cut. Metal version.
Whoa. And then you got to end it with Amadeus going, oh, at the end.
I know, isn't it interesting? Remember that time in our life where we tried to be Amadeus Mozart?
Oh, yes. Okay.
Just the adult world came for us.
But
Salieri came for us. Okay, now we're just like secret fat kids looking for sweets, talking about movies.
Can we get those sweets though, man?
Hey, can we get those sweets though? Please.
You want to take away my music, then at least give me my diabetes. Come on.
Exactly. Give me those Venus nipples, please.
all day. Make it rain.
No, it's such a like. it's you know, intellectually we all understand how like impressive a lot of the great composers are, right?
Right.
But to see it like put to flesh in the way that Amadeus does it really drives it home in a way that is not like you don't feel with a lot of other classical music. Like it makes it real, it makes it come alive. Like you understand it. It makes you want to go be a stuffy historian that's like reading about the life of Beethoven so I can understand Beethoven better. Like because
Which is
maybe
funny-
because
funny-
there's value in that. There's literal value in that. Like we talk about music in the modern era. We live in a fucking wasteland, okay? How the fuck do these people do this with nothing? Like they have no like the technology we have, the considerations we can have. These people are the innovator. They invented this stuff from whole
Well, not
cloth.
only that, just like a lot of people think in terms of layers of a 4 or 5 piece ensemble, right? These guys were writing out entire orchestras on
I know.
one. Like and on top of that, but then coming up with juxtaposing themes or on the nose thing or whatever the case may be, with a theatrical bit, with lyrics and everything else as well. So like this whole universe.
It's
like,
all encompassing. It's the whole package. It's
Right.
everything that you have ever wanted to do as an artist is be a Mozart, be a Beethoven, like be somebody like that. Well, especially actually, I would say maybe like Mozart specifically, because Mozart did it all. He's a one-man army. He's a one-man army. You're writing a play. You're fucking writing the music. You're writing the lyrics. Like it's everything. It's everything. Like
you're trolling other composers by
you're fucking having exactly. You're being a young fucking guy having fun with your work.
Yeah.
That's like everything I had ever wanted to even touch, to ever be. Like, Paul and I, if you don't know, Big Paul and I used to be in a band. We're in a band together. And this is like Mozart is like exactly what you like the attitude you want to have. The type of way you want to express yourself. Where we were never Mozart. I guarantee you that. But like that concept, the ideal is somebody like Mozart. Like that's what you want to achieve. You want to you want to be Salieri to Mozart. Like that's all you can hope to be. That's all you want to be. And watching the way that like Milos Forman and Peter Shaffer and the actors and the cinematographers and everybody brought it all together. The attention to detail, like the production design, makes you feel like you understand it. You understand an impossible feeling.
Yeah.
Which is fucking crazy.
Right.
Like that is you can't talk to people about the people. Nobody understands that when you try to tell people that shit. You remember when you were trying to tell people about like when you were I want to live my dreams and this is why. You can't fucking articulate that to anybody. I guess we should have been just telling people to watch it. Be real pretentious and be like, tell people to watch Amadeus. Like, then you'll get me. Then you'll understand where I'm coming from.
Then you'll catch what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
Excuse me while I was slipping two, not trying to brag, size 2 leopard print pants.
Just saying. Just saying.
Yeah.
No, but that's the sentiment. That is the sentiment of like when you're an artist and you want to do things like that is what you're trying to be like a Mozart. You're trying to be the guy that does everything, that gets everything, that encompasses everything. It's probably impossible. It was probably impossible for Mozart, obviously, to a certain extent. Like there's with Mozart, like we all understand like there's a legend that surrounds Mozart that maybe is not the realest thing in the world. It might be way more.
It's also because we started off earlier. You said we're talking about like the human condition, right? Human experience, right? So just we don't change as people, right? So we're still obsessed with like pop culture for all these years, right? And you think about even this back then, right? Because the letters released, because the rumor for like Mozart, being killed, by Salieri when it started went with a letter to Constance, his wife. saying, I feel like I've been poisoned. I can't shake this idea out of my head, right? And then I'll start, and people start putting it together. Then that play happens. So it just this gospel, everything you wanted, because these were like for lack of a better term, pop stars of the time. These were the major stars at the time.
It was like Led Zeppelin and Rolling Stones. It was like Led Zeppelin and Rolling Stones, and they're hanging out together, and one of them dies. Yeah.
Yeah. And just mark it off, and just kind of how it morphs into that, right? And just like with our like your rock legends, from not our generation, but we're definitely still influenced by like the Hendrix, the Joplin, blah blah. They all died at 27. Van Morrison or Jim Morrison. 27. He was 35. He was 35.
I know.
He died. So it's part of the lore. Like all pop culture is like if someone dies, then they become even more famous than they would. Like most prevalent thing like in our lifetimes, I'd probably say like Kurt Cobain with Nirvana, right?
Yes. Yeah.
If they were to continue, you know what I mean? Like well, what would have what would have happened?
The only difference is we live in a time, even in the 90s, where they got to actually experience fame, whereas like Mozart actually had to just be a fucking scumbag and be poor and then die, and then everybody's like, whoa, Mozart's awesome.
Yeah, right.
Well,
that's sorry to that. Like a lot of writers had to deal with that. Right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but hey, it's just insane. Just kind of like looking at that and then just reading about the lives of all the people mentioned in this film. It was just a fun thing to go back there. That there's enough historical, factual things that you can appreciate about this, and then also appreciate the fiction piece, the fan piece of this, or like what happened. So it ties up to like historical aspects, and then it gives you the fun fan fiction of that Schaefer's play.
Yeah.
It's just you can't get enough of it. It was just fun. It was just so interesting to see that even like back then that was still like the talk of the town. The celebrity gossip and like stuff like who killed who and all this stuff.
Well, yeah, it's interesting to like kind of experience the idea that like we are literally the same as we were 200 and some 50 years ago.
Yeah,
like
you guys are dabbling in with politicians, the royalty, literal royalty at the time, and doing all this and all the hot, gossip, all the hot gossip, like it was all there.
Yeah,
it was just really, I don't know. It's just a real fun thing to revisit, man, and it
really was.
It like that too, just like it really just like leap slingshot back way to like my top 10 of like things of the things that I love, and I was just damn.
Yeah, it's something like you want to like show your kids when they get older. Like it's like this is such an amazing experience. Like come have this experience with me, because it's a tour de force from top to bottom. I think it's lightning in a bottle, because I don't think anybody ever did anything even approaching this after the fact. Milos Forman, especially as a director, who I respect his work. I really love One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I think Man in the Moon is okay. The Jim Carrey movie.
I just remember hating that movie.
Do you remember hating it?
I just remember hating it, but like, this is terrible. But whatever.
He's Andy Kaufman. It's a biopic about Andy Kaufman, and then it's the famous because Jim Carrey got like so in character. He just went so method that he was Andy Kaufman for 9 months or whatever.
What about like method actors?
No. Well, as you know, I am very method. So for me, it's difficult, but it could be easy. But for me, I go deep. Did you see that Jim Carrey documentary on Netflix where he's for that Andy Kaufman movie where he was in character 20? You saw it?
Yeah.
Because he's like in character 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, never breaks character. I watched that documentary in character.
Really?
My character hated it.
Your character didn't like it?
My character thought it was just narcissistic and pretentious. He watched like 20 minutes, and the only reason he didn't turn it off sooner is because he thought that Paul Giamatti might hit.
This is your character now, yeah.
Jim Carrey in the
Wow,
face.
incredible. Incredible.
It's too bad because I think I would have liked it.
Yeah. Do you do that a lot? Do you watch TV and just in character? Is that what you do? A lot of your life is in character.
When you're an artist, Conan, it's, you know what I mean? This is the life you lead.
You're telling me,
I don't
right?
need to tell you.
There's actually a documentary on Netflix called Jim and Andy.
Okay.
About
after Mayor Pete.
Yeah, you get right after Mayor Pete, with their staged like weird romantic moments.
Mm-hmm.
So I was gonna put a clip from Mayor Pete, the one I'm talking about in the podcast. I was gonna put it in right here, but then I realized I would have to like watch some of Mayor Pete, and I was like, nah. Like, don't trust these people, okay? They don't love each other.
LaForek, 10-year, classic.
Bushmills, Sherry Cask Reserve, yesterday.
For all you Protestants out there, man, go for it.
Oh, you fucking Catholics. You're fucking always stuffy. Probably Salieri fans.
Ticklish.
Oh, these fucking Catholics and their goddamn Salieri worship. You know? I like to come down. I like to say, like, I'm a Mozart fan, you know? I like to say that.
Yeah.
I slipped into a Canadian accent for no reason.
I know, but I appreciate it.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, just wrapping up a little bit, like, I just love the spirit of the movie. I love the way it makes me feel, and like I said, I am a guy that is kind of sympathetic to Salieri. I really am. I feel Salieri's pain, like on a gut level. Like I feel that when he's like, "I am the saint of mediocrity, and I forgive you, I absolve you of your sins." Like, it's funny, but it's also incredibly sad. And it's like all Salieri thinks of himself is that he's a mediocre person, because he's not a mediocre person. He's just not as good as Mozart. And that is the tragedy of Salieri in context of this film and the play and whatnot, is that he just can't get past that somebody might be better than him. And it stifled him for the rest of his fucking life.
Mm-hmm.
Because like the degree of vanity that it requires to need to be the best, you know, like he's not sated or comfortable with just being like, well, it's not about reinventing the wheel, it's about keeping it rolling. Like, he's not like that. He's a guy that's like, no, I need to be the wheel. I have to be. If I'm not the wheel, then what the fuck was all this for?
Right.
You know, and I like that it couches that in a conversation, a personal conversation between Salieri and God, and then the priest as an extension of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because like it starts off like it's a confession, really, for Salieri just to be like, well, fuck you, fucking get out of here, go away.
Yeah, a confession to I'm about to challenge all your beliefs in this road for my impassioned freaking.
Oh no, because he wants to take people down with him. Basically, he's like, "Did you believe in something? Do you believe in something?"
You want to talk about like a big boy moment, right? Where he goes back that way, like where he pats the priest kid on the back, like, you know, I absolve you.
I will speak for you, Father. I speak for all mediocrities in the world. I am their champion. I am their patron saint.
You know what I mean? It's like, you know, like your whole effort to come in here, and you just let's just say that he spoke to him for 3 hours.
Honestly, Paul, a pretty Chad move.
Yeah, just like, right. I don't know what that means, but I'm agreeing. But it's just like, yeah, this is completely dismissing you, right? But it just, yeah. But that is the true tragedy of him, is that he didn't even get to, you know, accept or like appreciate like what he was graceful with his hard work throughout his year. But he got so consumed with Mozart being better than him that into that. So I mean,
Well, one of
that's
the
kinda-
good
that was
one of the good fallouts from the movie Amadeus is that Salieri's work actually became popular,
Mhm.
which is wild. Which is wild to think about, right? Like there is like I know that it's not really Salieri, like that's not the real character represented in the movie,
But they
but like,
wanted to hear it though.
but it gave him a little bit of a life after the movie came out. Like people were like, "Well, who's Salieri? Let's look into it," which is like this bizarre self-fulfilling prophecy. Because it's like such a beautiful tone note in the beginning of the movie, where he's just like he's playing him all of these like little ditties that he did, his operas, and then he plays that he plays that famous Mozart piece, and the guy immediately recognizes, oh, I love that's amazing, I love that,
charming,
yeah, charming. Like what a beautiful mission statement for the entire movie. Is he's like, oh. That fucking Mozart, that fucking asshole died when he was 35, was fucking put in a pauper's grave, and you still know his fucking music more than you know mine.
And you're from Vienna.
Yeah. Yeah. a beautiful circle.
I was like, oh, so then you must know this, and then nothing. Right,
Yeah.
but that's the thing, though. Like God kept me alive for 32 years to watch me go extinct. My music become more and more less relevant.
Well, that's what I like about the movie is that it couches this like he literally is fighting with God. That's what he thinks he's doing because he feels like art and music is divinely inspired. So for God to birth Mozart is an affront to him and his dedication to God to make art. Because Salieri comes from the position, like I said before, he promises his entire being to God if he could just be good at making art.
Yeah.
And then Amadeus is better than him, and he doesn't give a shit. Doesn't even know what he's talking about. He's like, no, I like to joke. I like to joke about farts and poop, and then I'm pretty, and I like to write beautiful operas.
And dabble with Turkish delights.
Yeah. As so they say. But oh my god, I'm dying. I am a leper. So what are your final thoughts? What like so when the movie ends, you're done watching it, what does Paul think in his head? What does Big Paul think? What does he think when he's done? The credits roll. What happens?
It's the same feeling you get right at the very beginning of the film. That's what happens to me. I'm just like, damn, I'm definitely gonna watch this again. Like, because you want more. You want more.
Exactly.
I think that's what, like a good song, after you've listened to a good song, that's what you want. You want to hear it again. It's a good film. You want to find a reason to watch it again. And I thought it ended just as operatic, dramatic, in with a punch, just the same way it ended. I'm sorry, the same way it began. And
yeah,
that's my final thought was just well, actually, future Shaun, start putting this in post.
Yeah.
There
it is. I hear the music.
Yeah, and then you can start
I hear the fever. I hear the bassoons. I hear the bassoons. I hear the trumpets.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got a lot of work to do, future Shaun.
Oh, you gotta go like this. Oh. Yeah. No, I I agree. I like it's one of those movies where you just kind of stop and you just like, God damn, like what a good fucking movie. And and that's really at the end of the day, it's like the greatest compliment. You were just stuck there, sitting there, staring at the screen, thinking to yourself, what a fucking good movie.
So David Bowie once brought Jack Black on stage to sing Fame. Okay.
Oh, Frank Black, not Jack Black.
That's what I said, Frank Black.
You said Jack Black, bitch.
Future Shaun, block out that mishap. Lephoric, tenure. That cover, man, it just kicked you in the ass. As soon as you finished listening to that song, or watch the stage video of them doing it, you're just like, fuck. Like, they really just kicked your ass with that song. And I felt the same way when I finished Amadeus.
Actually, yeah, it is the closest to that. Like, I would say, like watching like a great concert video, and then being at the end and being like, like just feeling juiced by it. You're just like, oh fuck, I want to go out and create. I want to go do something. I want to be better than I am. Like, you just feel that. Like, it inspires you. It's inspirational.
Yeah.
And not many things are, but the power of Mozart's music that like really like runs through the middle of that movie is undeniable. It's undeniable. Like, there's a reason why it's as popular as it is. It's one of those things where it's like, like, culture got it right. Mozart deserves the praise. He deserves it. He's fucking touched. Died at 35, and he's like one of the greatest composers to ever have lived.
Yeah.
Produced 600 pieces of music before he died at 35.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's arguably a lot more.
Yeah, there's a lot more like unfinished stuff, right? Little pieces here and there that people will now and again try to like take a crack at in the modern era. It's still to this day, people try to take a crack at it. But yeah, like Amadeus, if you've never seen Amadeus, I don't know why you're watching this, but I would suggest you go watch Amadeus. And if you have seen it, you know what we're talking about. You felt it. You've been moved.
Well, hopefully, if they've seen it and they listen to this, hopefully they go watch it again.
I think you would. I'm ready to I was watching it right before Paul called me. Like, I had it on my TV right over here.
If you're in my house right now, we'd pull it up.
Honestly, we would. My dream, my fantasy is to live near Paul and have a theater room so that when we have these flights of fancy of being like, oh, we'll watch Amadeus, we could just go to each other's house and watch it together. It'd be rad. It'd be rad. You know, watching movies like by yourself and then coming together and talking about it is fun. Don't get me wrong. Because there's a element of excitement, like what does the other person think about it? But also watching movies with your friend, with your best buddy, is actually also very cool.
Like, can you imagine, man, if we watched the Greasy Strangler together for the first time?
One time, I had to drive Michael Jackson to the airport, and on the way, we decided to stop at this little blues club because he wanted to kick back with a bottle of wine and a cigar. It was a quiet night. He was eating these delicious nachos, and I broke into the DJ booth and I put Smooth Criminal on the sound system. I wanted a boogie, and so did Michael. He got up and started dancing on the table, and the security guard came up, tried to take him down. So I punched him the fuck out. And then this other guy comes up, and Michael hit him. And he hit him so hard, his hair fell out. And then these two Korean twins came on to us. So we took them into the manager's office, and we started pumping away at them. And Michael and I were just pumping, and then we sprayed him with hot milky cum. And everybody applauded.
Dude, honestly, we probably would have laughed way harder. Dude, we would have laughed way harder than we did by ourselves. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. That is a movie that you need to watch with like a bunch of people. Like, because it's so weird. You don't even know how to react to certain things. But go check.
They start going down, spirals. But yeah, it's not about that. It's not about the Greasy Strangler. It's about the Amadeus.
I mean, well, most things are technically at the end of the day about the Greasy Strangler because you don't want to get caught in his greasy trap. But do you want to fucking be your father? Okay. Do you want to manifest? Fuck. Everybody's trying to be the Greasy Strangler out there. Swear to God. Go check it out. It's the first episode Big Paul ever did with me for Ghost of the Movies is the Greasy Strangler. I actually sent a text message to Paul after I told him we should do the Greasy Strangler saying, like, hey, man, if you don't want to do this, I'm okay with that. Because I'd forgotten how fucked up that movie was. But anyways, thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, everybody. Thank you, Big Paul. Thank you for talking Amadeus with me tonight. We'll see you guys again later. All the relevant links are in the description. Paul's like a regular person who has like a family and a real job. He doesn't have any. He's not some sort of YouTube grifter.
Follow me at Zubox.
Yeah, follow him at Shaun Zubox on all things, on all social medias. You'll find your way there. You'll find your way. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, and thanks again, Paul. This is great. This is a great conversation.
Glad that you did it, buddy. Cheers.
Good night, and good luck.
Ha ha ha!